Welcome to Innovation Tuesday, a seminar series organized this November by EIT Health, Uppsala University and the University of Groningen. We are going to have 4 seminars this November. That is every Tuesday, and we start at 5:15. And we're going to have experts with us in innovation and entrepreneurship that will share their experience, knowledge, but most importantly, open up to take your questions. So with that said, don't hold your questions back. As soon as you get them during the next 45 minutes, write them in the chat, and I will bring them in to the panel for discussion and reflections. This evening, we are having a panel discussion, and we are focusing this on students' perspective of going from an idea to a company. Is it possible to do studies within at the same time as you are founding a company? To discuss this topic, we have a panel with us. We have Fred Isaksson and Andreas Samuelsson, 2 Uppsala University alumni and today entrepreneurs and co-founders of Ava and Company. We have Filip Gratell with us, a business advisor and the CEO at Drivhuset. Maria Mattsson Mähl is also joining us, an entrepreneur and a business angel and the CEO at AlphaCE. Most welcome, everyone. We're going to have this organization of this evening that we're going to start up so you get to know our panel a little bit. They're going to introduce themselves, who they are, their background, and what they are doing today. And I suggest that we start up with Andreas. Welcome.
Thank you. So hi, I'm Andreas, born and raised here in Uppsala, and I graduated from Uppsala University last year with a master in socio-technical engineering with a focus on information technology. And during my bachelor thesis 3 years ago, me and a couple of classmates decided to use our thesis result and try to build a kind of product company out of it. So we took contact with Uppsala Innovation Center, an incubator here in town, got accepted to their startup program so we could test our idea and validate it. And the rest of the team got bored as time went on and left. So I was alone with the idea. A year later, it was time for my master thesis, and the same thing occurred again. I had this great idea that I was going to do with my thesis partner. And as time went on, he needed a reliable income and got a real job instead. And I was kind of focused and determined that I was going to do something on my own after graduation. So I didn't apply for any engineering jobs or anything like that when I was done with my education. But luckily enough, I got in contact with Fred, who I studied with during the last summer, because he and another classmate, Joachim, was in need of a co-founder with some technical interests to help them build what today is Ava. So I took the leap and joined them. I joined Fred and we started the company almost a year ago now. And today I'm the CTO of the company and do all the technical stuff. That's me.
Thank you, Andreas. So Fred, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fred. Nice to meet you, and thank you for having me, Lina. So I was born and raised on Gotland. It's an island in the Baltic Sea. I came to Uppsala for studies and went to the same program as Andreas, very long technical name, socio-technical systems engineering, if I'm not wrong. Throughout my studies, I got involved in different sort of entrepreneurial sort of settings. I both chose to get involved in a organization which is called Entrepreneurs Academy, which is a student organization which promotes entrepreneurship amongst students, sort of like this setting. So hosting different events to promote different sort of business development. I also moved forward with different school projects to test them and validate them as real business models, just to have something to play with and sort of develop my own entrepreneurship. And then towards the end of my studies, I contacted Maria, which is also here today with us. We had sort of run into each other in different settings before in the entrepreneurial scene in Uppsala. And we together, well, back then it was me and Joachim and Maria, designed a master thesis, which was sort of designed to work as a basis for a company. So I combined my master thesis with founding a company. We graduated and then moved forward with our idea. Back then it was me and Joachim, and then Joachim, as Andreas said, chose to pick a real job. But luckily I met Andreas in that breakup and got a new partner. And just as Andreas said, we've been working collectively ever since last autumn, so for almost a year now. Yeah, and I have more of a business role in our company right now. While Andreas is doing the coding, I try to get some customers.
Thank you, Fred. Filip, I'd like to invite you.
All right. Hello, everyone. And thank you, Lina, for inviting me to this panel. My name is Filip. I'm the CEO of Drivhuset. And for you that don't know about Drivhuset, we are a foundation that works for realizing entrepreneurial dreams. And we focus on students' entrepreneurship here in Uppsala. So what we do is that we provide business coaching for everyone that wants help developing their idea. So if you would have an idea, you can come to us and we can get you started and build a roadmap together how you should be more successful with your idea. It doesn't really necessarily needs to be just an idea. You can just be interested in entrepreneurship, and we can help you come up with ideas as well. And we do this through coaching, education, and our network. So the business development through coaching is free, and you can come as many times as you want. And the education is also free. So we do different seminars online now within economics or entrepreneurship or marketing and so on. And then we try to help you through all the stages. So when you become a real company as well, we can help you register your company and then also help you in the first year as well. Yes, so I think that's everything that you need to know right now.
Do you only work with students in Uppsala?
So Drivhuset exists in the whole of Sweden, and I work for the Uppsala region. So we work mostly with Uppsala students, both from SLU, but also from Uppsala, mainly from Uppsala University. And I can also add that I'm also a alumni from Uppsala University. I study a master in entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Filip. We're going to come back to you and to Andreas and Fred also. But first, Maria, welcome to introduce you and give a picture of who you are and what you do.
Thank you. Nice to meet some of you again. I'm Maria. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I had no clue I was one. That was not a topic when I went to school. I was born and raised in Uppsala, and when I studied personal administration, PA-programmet, as it is called. And there was nobody talking about entrepreneurship at all. And I was not planning at all to become an entrepreneur, but by coincidence, I got my first job at an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, and I was his project manager. So suddenly at the age of 23, I was the CEO of an internet company in the late 90s when the IT sector boomed here in Sweden. So after that, I built several companies, mostly for other people. So my first 15 years as a business leader, I was actually making money for other people. But in 2012, I founded my first company by my own, and that is Alpha C. And today I still have Alpha C, but I have also some other interests in startups. Among them, ABBA is one of them. So that is the short story.
So a little bit, expand a little bit on your other interests in company. What does that mean? Do you invest in them, and what do you invest in them?
I have done some investment, and I have done some mentoring. So it has varied. I'm very interested in the startup phase of a company. I think it's very fascinating, and I cannot start as many companies as I would love to. So for me, being a little bit part of that startup phase is like Christmas Eve for other people's. Maybe I'm so that's what I enjoy that very much. So therefore, I have become mentor for some entrepreneurs and then business angels for some.
I just have several questions popping into my mind, but I'm going to keep them a little bit because I think they will come natural later on. Let's start the panel discussion. And I can see that we already have questions coming in, and I will go into them in a little while, but let's start up with, addressing, as a student, studies and building a company. Fred and Andreas, what are your thoughts around this aspect? And please, Maria, Filip, and Maria also welcome. We'll start with Andreas.
Yeah, so during my studies, I never got to the point where we actually formalized the company, but we did a lot of validation and everything up to that point. And for me, it was great because it gave me an opportunity to battle test both the ideas that I had and also the team in a setting where it didn't matter really if it didn't take off. I still had my studies to rely on, and I still had everything before me. So for me, it was great to have that opportunity to put the time in during my studies to get further in my business idea testing more.
Fred, what are your thoughts around it?
Yeah, I think Andreas is really onto something. I mean, to start off, being a student, it's a really forgiving environment. Most students don't have a lot of other commitments to tend to, such as family or other things. Or some have, but it's usually a young phase in your life where you're pretty free to try out things. So I think testing either a business development, just an idea, without formalizing it, as Andreas said, or even formalizing it and sort of having a side hustle on the side of your studies. It's a really good way to test out if entrepreneurship is something for you. And I think another aspect is there are so many organizations like Drivhuset and also other organizations that are willing to help. And I think the world has this view on students that they are young, poor, and harmless, which a lot of people are willing to help you. As soon as you graduate, you become a lot more sort of grown up and serious, and not as many people will give you things for free and help you for free. So I think make use of your position as a student, and it's a good spot to try and test out being an entrepreneur.
Have you experienced this? I think it's a year ago or maybe 6 months ago that you got your exam at the Uppsala University. So have you seen a change in the ability to have people to come in and support?
Not distinctively, but if you are looking for something and you sort of you make contact, if you have that presentation, hey, I'm a student, most people will see you as harmless, and there's no competition, you're not dangerous in any aspect. So I think they treat you in more of a sort of that harmless aspect. And also there are a lot of formal rules that if you're a student, then you get these things for free and you can apply to these sort of scholarships or types of money, which you can't when you are not a student or you have grown up and yeah.
So Maria, if I invite you into this discussion with experience of being one of the persons who are well established and supporting startups, is it different if it is a student startup or if it's not a student startup? What are your reflections on getting people to engage in you? You get an angel or a...
I think Fred has a point here. If you contact, for example, an authority or a scientist and ask for stuff and you're a student, they're going to go share it with you for free. So he has a huge point there. But when it comes to entrepreneurs and true entrepreneurs, most entrepreneurs are very willing to give things away for free. And you can do a lot for free for a very, very long time. And that's something something important to tell everyone that wants to start a business. And don't even think about using a web bureau or whatever, a consultancy that charge you from the beginning. Only use people that are, the good ones are always free in the beginning, because they can tell that this is something, if I do this for free now, then when you're a star, you're gonna pay back. Like, for example, one of my best friends, she went, her first client when she left school, she applied as a McKinsey Baker as a lawyer, and they were allowed to work for free a few hours per week. And the guys that she helped for free is now Spotify.
Yeah, it was a good payoff. But
so a lot of those, and there's quite a lot of those stories. I mean, I have people that have helped Klarna, for example. The guys behind Klarna are from Uppsala, and one of the entrepreneurs that a lot of you know a lot is Mattsson, and he actually shared his office the first years for them so that they could, because they didn't have an income. So Fred has a point that in the beginning, when you're a student, you're not used to a huge salary, you're not used to having a stable income, etc. And that is actually a huge opportunity. And one of the entrepreneurs that was quite famous when I left university in the IT boom in the late 90s, his name was Emilsson. And maybe some of you here in this room has heard of him. But he had, and it still has, he doesn't have costs in his life that is higher than the amount of money he had as a student. That is still his measurement. He does not want to have more costs in life than he had as a student. And the point of having that perspective is that if you don't have any costs, it doesn't really matter if you have any incomes. But if you have high costs, then you really, really need to have big incomes too.
Can I ask you, what is the key attributes if you want to convince an experienced or senior person to invest or consult your business development?
Well, first to say, I have to say that if you don't need money, don't take in business angels at all. Your stock shares is the most, if you really want to build a huge company, then that's more worth than gold. So never ever give away stocks. That's like a very important mindset, I think, that you should have. So start with, don't start with that thought, how do I find money? Because that actually might give you the wrong direction. Start with trying to find a business model that works.
And how do you convince these people to invest in you?
Well, if you do have a business model that works, they're going to invest.
Okay, so that's the trick. Filip, if we you have experience of working with a lot of different students from very different education programs. What do you see is the challenges that these young entrepreneurial persons are faced with to start a company during their studies?
And I mean, I think we come back a little bit to the first question that we asked Fred and Andreas, and I think you should see when you are a student, you actually have a lot of time, even if it doesn't feel like it, but time will always become more and more valuable. So when you are a student, you can experiment a lot more. You can try to figure out what type of entrepreneur you will be, because there is different kinds of entrepreneurship can be so much. It can mean that you're trying to build the next unicorn, or it can be that you're trying to build something else. So as a student, you have the opportunity to actually figure out what entrepreneurship means to you. And how to do that is going to these type of events and talking with other entrepreneurs, of course, and trying out and testing and learning. And that's actually one of the challenges that we see is a lot of people, we want things to be perfect, right? We want things to be perfect from the beginning. If it's not perfect, I will not launch it. If it's not perfect, I will not try it, because I'm afraid to be judged. I'm afraid to let other people, because think about the idea, because we have this idea high, and I think a lot of people knows about it. You know, you're on your bike, you're biking home, and you come up with this $1 million idea, and you think this is the best idea that someone has ever thought about, which is the best feeling, right? But then we get afraid, because if we start talking about it, people will judge it. And we are afraid that amazing idea will not be so perfect, which is crazy, because the first moment you have the idea, it will not be perfect. You need to work with it. You need to polish it until it becomes a diamond. So that's one of the challenges, I think, is the largest.
Yeah, this actually ties on to a question that Victoria has written, and is. She wrote, does Drivhuset also help with patents? But I like to formulate it, what are your thoughts around patents? And before you answer, I just like to say that I can see that we have a colleague of ours from Uppsala University Innovation here, Haris Stamatopoulos, that has given an answer to everybody else. But I think this is an important topic. How about protecting your idea? What are your thoughts about that? If we go to, we take a quick one to Andreas and Fred, and then Maria and Filip also can give their, when you have this brilliant idea, or Andreas, what do you say? How about protecting your idea? What are your thoughts?
I think, like Filip said, that especially in like tech, it's this thing that you can't share the idea, because then someone else is gonna snatch it from you and develop it. But I think a good idea in itself is, I think, protected by the goodness of the idea. It's not the idea like if we take like the classic social platforms. It's not just that you have the platform, it's how you actually develop it as well, and all the underlying stuff that you can't really see at the first glance. I mean, just look at MySpace was the first, but they didn't survive Facebook. You don't have to be the first with everything. You just have to be the best that's actually doing it. And if you don't like air the idea and get the input on it, then it will never be a great idea, I think.
So Fred, when do you think one should protect an idea?
I mean, I think you have to categorize business ideas. I suppose there are sort of more scientific results which can become companies, and then there's a reason to patent it or protect the technology behind it. But these sort of broad common business ideas, just as Andreas said, I don't think there's any protecting that you can do more than work the hardest. It really comes down to the person more than the idea. I think when we think about developing a business, we always start with the idea, and then you found the company. And sort of in hindsight for us, it's actually been the other way around. If you're serious about becoming an entrepreneur and building a company, you start with just having a company. And then you sort of just, you start with an idea and you move forward, you pivot, you try things, you learn new things, you find new business customers, and then you tweak and you sort of do things to this idea, and then it becomes a viable business. I think it's a very rare case that you have an initial idea and then you build a business, and that's still the business idea which you move forward with. There's always this pivoting and changing, which once you try the idea on the market.
So as a business angel, Maria, how do you look upon patents and protection of ideas? When are they good to have, and when are they actually maybe even a stop? You have to unmute.
Just as Fred said here, you have to, if you're into, I don't know, medical formulas or whatever, maybe a patent is important. But the truth is that it's not that important in most cases. So don't put time and energy on the process that might not actually just slower the tempo down. A few years ago, I went to Silicon Valley, and I was able to see the scientific places behind Google and Ericsson, etc. And I was so amazed. They were having everything open for each other, and the competitors even had entering cards to each other. So we went. We were a business group having this tour, and we went, how is this even possible? Isn't this crazy? And they said, oh no, secrets are going to come out anyway, and we don't have time for patents. It's all about tempo and best practice, and finding the best way to the next level, and let the best man win sort of attitude. So just as Fred said here, a lot of people think that the business idea is going to make it fly. It's never about the business idea. It's always about the people. And the people who's going to get up and as a winner is the person who can gets the most get past as many hurdles as possible. Fred and Andreas and I spoke yesterday to another entrepreneur, and he was mentioning Mike Tyson and his quote that was, it's not, and he was saying that entrepreneurship is not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and still get up on your feet. And that's very much how entrepreneurship is. It's about, it's very tricky. And the hard part is to let go of patents and let go of business ideas and see what did the client actually say. And sometimes if you're really stuck to an idea, or if you're stuck to the perfect model or whatever, then maybe you actually cannot see what's right in front of you.
Is this a little bit of a paradigm shift that we see? Is this what we said 10 years ago too, or have we changing our views on patents in business from an investor's perspective? And you're muted again, Maria. I'm sorry.
I said, I think, I don't know if it's a shift. I do think that the tempo is so high, just as Andreas was mentioning MySpace and Facebook, another very famous. When the internet came, we had Alta Vista. Nobody talks about Alta Vista, it's Google. So I do think that we have seen so many, it's all about how things develop. It's not about being the first on the idea. So.
Okay. But Filip, if people comes, when do they know if they're going? I'm going to like hang on to this patent since Victoria and them asked for it, and then I'm going to move on. But how do they know when you should patent and not patent? And if it's decided to patent, how do you go about it? If it's a good idea.
And I think we've been Maria and Fred and Andreas have been talking about all these aspects. It depends on case to case. In some industries, patents are very important. You can't even move forward within medical science, for example. If you have something within science on the medical side, it's very hard to move on without a patent. But so the best way is actually to talk with the innovation office at Uppsala University, for example. That's a very good point. So as Harris was writing, the innovation office at Uppsala University helps with these questions. So if you think that you need a patent, you can take help. From us, you can get more guidance on where you should, with whom you should talk to. We don't have expertise within patents, but it depends actually, and most of the time you don't need a patent.
I know that every time we talk to each other and run into each other, you can't emphasize enough how important it is to understand the problem and the value of the customer and understanding the customer. Would you like to expand on that a little bit?
And I mean that is actually everything. That's what we're trying to do here. I mean, we're trying to solve a problem. We're trying to create a value for a potential customer. So the customer is the most important aspect in a company. Without the customer, you have nothing, right? You have a fancy business model or a idea on paper, but the customer is everything, and that's why we need to know exactly who is our customer. And the thing that we get a lot is that, well, it's everyone that wants to buy it, which is easy, right? I'm gonna develop this product, I'm gonna develop this service, and everyone that wants to buy it is my customer. And the negative thing with that is it gets very complicated to pinpoint everyone from a marketing perspective, or you don't really know what value you're trying to solve because everyone is your potential customer. You need to do your research and pinpoint what type of value you're bringing with your product or service and what problem you're trying to solve. And I think we saw that today. There was a company, now I can't remember the name, but they actually went under today. They were like this huge company, got a lot of investment, 1.7 billion, I think, in dollars, and they had experience and they had everything. Everything was perfect, but they didn't have customers and they failed. So that's the most important aspect, I think.
We have a question here from Margareta to Andreas and Fred. And she writes, did Andreas and Fred do their thesis within the business idea testing, within the engineering program, or in the entrepreneurship school at Uppsala University? And furthermore, she writes, is entrepreneurship encouraged within the educational program that they studied, where they offered information about business creation at university? Why did they want to start a company? Oh, let's start. We can leave the last one, but Fred, what do you say?
To answer the first question, no, it was not within the entrepreneurial school. It was the regular program. So I know there's a last year entrepreneurial school you can go to in the 5th year, but this was through the normal program. So it was a regular master thesis. And to answer the second question, is entrepreneurship promoted? Yes and no. I don't think, I mean, in this sort of setting, yes. But then it's mostly from sort of external actors such as Innovation and Drivhuset and these sort of players, which help you and encourage you to do entrepreneurship. But within the academy and within courses and within the program, not so much. Then it's mostly academic work. I think they would rather promote doing a PhD or than founding a company.
So Andreas, why did you want to start a company? And would you have wanted to start it earlier than you did?
The why question is, I think it's kind of hard. It's more fun, and I always wanted to do something, create something from scratch, like build something that gives some type of value for other people as well. And I don't know. The goal was that I was gonna start a company earlier, but since other things came in the way with everyone leaving me by myself, I think it would have been good if we started, but at the same time, with the people I started with, if we would have formalized it and then they have decided to, we don't want to do this anymore, I would be in more of a harder position, because then we would have, like Maria said, with the stocks and everything to divide among us. So I think it was good to do that test run early on.
So if you look back, what kind of things would you have done differently?
Oh, I don't know. It's good that I didn't do it differently, because I get to learn a lot on the way. So it's a hard question. Probably, like everything, try to validate more of the customer side of it. We were kind of busy with, like, this is a great idea. We think this is awesome. We think everyone's gonna like this, but I still don't know if it would have been a good, like, business side of it, because we never really checked, like, the customer part.
So Fred, if you look backward, what would have made you go in and start a company earlier, do you think?
I'll answer that question, and then I'll answer, sorry for the pronunciation, Moji's question after that.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you.
I don't know really what sort of factor would have made me found a company earlier. I can sort of regret not having a more long-term business idea, which I developed, which I had throughout the whole time I studied. Because I think when you go to, I don't know about you people which are here today, but when you go to these sort of inspirational events and you listen to senior entrepreneurs and these sort of stories behind companies, I find it difficult to take it all in without having something to apply it to. So once you have your own business idea, you can sort of take these tips and tricks and apply it and understand it much better if you have something to apply it to and sort of compare it to. So that's my recommendation, that even though you don't move forward and formalize and found a company, just have an idea which is sort of your sandbox, which is a testing idea, like, would this work in this aspect? What are my customers? And just playing around with something. I think I jumped too much between different ideas, which didn't really give me a good context of all these sort of tips I could have learned throughout the way.
So you should basically have done an Andreas.
I should have done an Andreas. That's what I should have done.
Do you read Moi's questions and then,
Sure. So the unique value that we think we bring to our customers today, just to give you a brief understanding of what we do today, is that the Authority for Employment Services, Arbetsförmedlingen in Sweden, they have other companies which supply them with different services. And these services require certain digital systems which ease their workflow. So exchanging information from the authority to these actors. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to support them with those systems and develop new ones, which provides more efficiency and makes their job easier. And that's a very, I think, unique sort of setting, which we've worked our way into. Like, I knew nothing about the Swedish employment system before I really started to deep dive into this whole world. And it's a really funky system, and it has a lot of problems which needs to be solved. And I think it's a good example of going from a really high conceptual idea, like we should do digital job coaching, to really boiling it down to what is exactly what we do, what is the price, and who do I call? Like, specifically, what is the name of the person that I call to sell my first product? So it's super tangible and super concrete, which we can move forward with.
So Andreas, how did you go about to really understand in Ava & Company what the value was that you provided that nobody else did? Or
I think like Fred is talking about there, since it's a really complex system, the whole ecosystem of employment services, it's just being able to understand the complete flow of it, not just with the people, but with all the data and all the infrastructure behind, creates value on its own.
Are there any stakeholders in the network that is especially important, and how do you identify them?
For us specifically?
Or with your experience on a theoretical level.
Well, the employment service itself, like Arbetsförmedlingen, is important mainly because it's the central system for everything, all the data and everything, and they have a tendency they have a historical tendency to not to do digital stuff really great, to be kind. So they are important because they can provide us with the data and everything we need, but they're also important because we can provide something that eases other people's use of their systems.
Just as a small comment, I can just sort of loop this whole thing and bring the question to Maria, because I see that she has a question in the chat also.
Thank you.
No, in terms of stakeholders, I think Maria has been super valuable in this setting. We would never have understood the system as we do without her. And I think the whole sort of channel into the labor market system and all those sort of different actors and that it holds, that's thanks to Maria. So that's a good way to understand the value of having a senior person which knows everything about the business to help you develop and make your idea tangible and viable.
Yeah. So the question Maria has from Moe here is, if you are presented with a company like Ava and Company 15 years ago, would you have invested in that? Why or why not?
No, I would absolutely not have done that. 15 years ago, I had small children, and I was still employed as a CEO. I knew I was a good business leader. But today, I know I'm not just good. I know I'm awesome. So, and that is a huge difference. I know that when time gets rough, I become brilliant. And but after a while, that becomes a little bit boring. So now I get to see Fred and Andreas. For me, entrepreneurship is not about making money. It's not important for me. It's about solving a problem. And my tool of solving problems is business. It's my way of getting the money and the resources to solve a problem, which in my case mostly has been helping unemployed people enter the labor market. But I would like to add to Fred and Andreas' point here. I think it was Fred. What I think it's amazing is that they are brilliant too here, and they have so much potential in their personality and way of thinking, which I think it's very fun to see. But for me, adding 25 years of work experience, I can just add on my network, my mistakes, everything. And if they want to use my network or use my phone book or whatever, it's up to them, but it's there. So it takes decades to get where I am when it comes to labor market network. And of course, that it's a huge network. And if Fred and Andreas would have said, I can do this by myself, and I don't need your network, and I don't need it, but they don't. They're like, oh, do you have? How do I get in contact with that person? Or I can, and all they need is a very brief introduction, and maybe they don't even need an introduction. They call themselves, but they ask and they can. So what they do is that they don't start from the bottom. they start from maybe 25 years of experience.
So,
and that is my question to them is, you've done so good this year, but I also know that you've had some hurdles.
guys,
And
it's 6 o'clock. I'm
okay, sorry.
We could have continued this discussion. It's absolutely no problem to do, but we're going to wrap up, unfortunately.
Okay.
And we're going to do that with you providing and each of you getting a very quick time to say, like, what are the key attributes to a successful startup as a student? And let's start in the order we started this evening. So we start with Andreas, one thing, and then we go Fred, Filip, and Maria. And Andreas, you need to unmute.
Yeah, as a student, I would say student or not a student, test. Always start by testing your idea as quick as possible to see if it's, if it works with paying customers.
Fred, what do you say?
I think like to validate yourself, to validate that you're really interested in entrepreneurship, I would think about, is it only one specific idea that I would like to move forward with, or could it be any idea because I'm really sold on the concept of entrepreneurship, because that's the difference. And if you are committed to or any idea which will hold your values, then you know that entrepreneurship isn't for me, and then you just have to be tenacious and sort of naive. You have to be confident enough that I know I will make it if I just keep on going, and then just keep your head in your lane.
Filip?
And I think I want to continue build on what Fred said, that if you need to like what you're doing, right? Even if it seems like a good idea, if you are passionate about it, it will not work, because you need to work, and you need to work all the time in the beginning, and test, and it will not work all the time. So that's why you need to actually like what you do. It seems simple, but many times we tend to fall for ideas that we are not passionate about. So follow your passion instead.
Maria?
It's extremely, if you want to succeed, it's extremely important to have the network and the right, know the right people. So do what you do here. It's a way of getting a network. And also, you don't have to find a business angels. You can find just mentor within the sector that you want to work with. So networking is extremely important.
Thank you. I always get so happy when the panel takes over and I can lean back and let you guys do the show. Excellent evening. Thank you so much. I can also see in the chat that we have wishes that we can stay a little bit afterwards to hear Maria's question. But we're going to wrap up this Innovation Tuesday today. Thank you everybody who joined in and asked questions and participated. Harris for coming in from Uppsala University Innovation also. Thank you. Next week, we're going to send from Groningen University, and it's going to be an entrepreneurship journey from two business creators, Hobie Tam and Tanya Colonna, who has a company in Groningen, and they will tell their stories and do's and don'ts. And with that, I wrap up today's evening, and thank you everyone for taking time to zoom in and share your knowledge, share your thoughts, and ask your questions. Have a good evening.